I like this music.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition with Grizzly, discussing the Idaho murder. Very tragic. Really here to... It's hard to talk about. Prayers go out to the families. But we're here to find the truth. And I do want to make an announcement that last week we talked about the attorney switching sides. Well, that was wrong information.
Oh.
And the information we received was from a alert from a media station that reported that news. So with the media being involved, they want their numbers up. They want to be the first to report something, whether it's the truth or not. They want to be there. So if we discuss something, that's where we're getting our information, not only from them, but also you all. So if we know, or you know, that something is incorrect or is something new, please comment. Let us know. It's very important that we share the truth and the information that comes to us. Now, you can tell we got some of the regular people back on tonight's show, and we're going to go through them, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Grizzly from coast to coast and around the world. How's everybody doing? Trisha, we'll start with you.
Oh, hi. I'm Trisha. I'm happy to be here to give any insight I can, or offer some different perspectives, maybe. And I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news on the radio. So I like to be sort of being able to take it in, like in the moment, so that I can maybe offer something, not biased or does that make sense? I mean, so I'm here to offer some thoughts. I definitely have my feelings about things in general, and so I'm here to participate. So,
but also, aren't you gifted with some special abilities?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like leading with that. But I mean, I've been able to help with some things with people, and so if that's the case, I'm definitely open to do that. I've gone to spiritual studies school. I've been in like inner senses development for a lot of years. I've had experiences since I was like 2.5, some profound spiritual experiences, and so I wanted to, in my life, I've been on this journey of studying mind, body, spirit, health and wellness, studying about the paranormal realm, the afterlife, shamanism, good psychology. How may I help a spirit in the world? I've studied about spirit guides and the helping spirits and angels and archangels and all that stuff. So, I mean, I just, if there's any way I can, like I said, give some insight or offer some help I'm happy to do that. And this is my little buddy, my bird Manny, and she's been with me a lot over the years. When I've had some paranormal experiences or been out in the woods, and the Sasquatch people are letting me know that they're there. So
That's awesome. That is.
Participate. Yeah. So
Jim, what about you, kind sir? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Like I said, I've been studying, always had the interest in the paranormal. Went to every New Age bookstore I could find one as soon as I could drive. Focused my studies on remote viewing and dowsing. And I've also had a few stays at the Monroe Institute. I'm very interested in out of bodies. I had a few in my life. I just never been able to duplicate it. I just find it very interesting to be able to connect with the world and how things work on that level, on that other subtle level.
That's awesome. It really is. Now, what we have next, and this gets people confused. Her name is Elise, but she goes by the Star. Now, can you explain that and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Elise, and I go by the Star because when I use tarot cards, the Star is always the card that I get to refer to my abilities. And the Star is a bridge between the divine and the mundane world. And so I thought that that was a good moniker, and Grizzly wanted me to pick a moniker. So I'm also happy to go by Elise if that's easier for people. So I've always been interested in the paranormal. And I was really interested in remote viewing, and UFOs was kind of what got me started. And I actually think it's so cool, Jim, that you studied at the Monroe Institute, because I'm a big fan of Robert Monroe and I have read his books. I started having experiences about 2 years ago. I started meditating regularly, and I would just, I started having these experiences of like divine love, like feeling love for the whole world and everybody. And then I would just try to be really present in my body in the moment and feel loving and feel relaxed. And when I did that, I realized I could see energy. And then I started seeing beings, and then I started getting feelings, and being able to interact with beings and talk to them and etc. And so things got crazy. And I also read tarot cards and then kind of use my feelings to make them more specific. Than just kind of the general card meanings. I kind of hone it a lot. So I think it's really cool, Trisha, that you help people, because that's what I've been doing a lot too. Because I've learned so many things on my journey about how to be my best self, and how to, because it's about shadow work and about ego death, and I'm really trying to live in ego death as much as possible. And I don't feel like I was really that wise before, but it's like I've learned so many lessons, and I just want to pass those on to other people. And then I see in other people's struggles, like the same things that I went through. And I personally believe that just about anybody can be psychic, because we all have a higher self, we all have a soul, and it's just about connecting to that. So that's kind of my mission, is to like help people connect to that and develop their abilities.
Nice.
Well, there we go. We heard from the Star. Now up next, Sport Cat, which is also it's 2 Irish penny, is also known as Glen. Glen, Sport Cat Glen, take it away.
All right. Well, my name is Glen, also known as the Sport Cat. I'm a trained remote viewer. I've worked with people from Project Jedi. I've also studied the Monroe Gateway. Excellent program. Been trained by Master Dowser here in Atlanta. My first experience with the paranormal started as a child, living in a haunted house. And then my first cryptid experience started with Mount Vernon Monster in Alexandria, Virginia.
What was it called?
The Bigfoot, the Mount Vernon Monster.
Oh, okay.
I am on several teams here in Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. I go out in the field and research. We've had experiences with UFOs, men in black, or a woman in black, and ghosts, UFOs. I don't know. I think we attract strange. Currently, I'm studying Norse and a little bit of Viking history, and so that's pretty much it about me. I don't know. I'm just Glenn.
Yeah, he's being a little modest, ladies and gentlemen. It goes a little deeper than that. But up next, we have Penny.
Hola, chiquita bananas.
Oh, Lord.
That's how I say hello to everybody.
Okay.
My name is Penny Ellie Shepherd, and I am an executive producer on The Dark Outpost with David Zubik, also a co-host. In 2016, when I left my husband, I found out that I was involved in MK Ultra projects. The project that I came to know as mine is Project Genesis. The sub-project is Eve, which is a cloning project. I found out that I'm actually in Joseph Mengelé's family. I was behind the scenes in Hollywood for 50 years. I found out that the projects that I was involved with, I was utilized as a covert asset for the deep state. I found out who my actual family is. They're involved in high politics and in Hollywood, very high producers. I found out that my former agent, who I had an affair with, is my brother from my first husband, Steve Zenos. And then I also became enemy of the state. And I found out that they have been making movies about all of us. But one of the movies that they made about me, it's a television series. It's called Stranger Things. And the character is 11. I was born August 11th, 1958 in Hollywood, Florida. And that is a paperclip project. So I lived in Ives Estates, which is, I was surrounded by Germanic factions within Ives Estates. I didn't understand what was going on because they kept erasing me and they were utilizing me in covert operations, which I don't believe you're going to find any paper on these projects. Probably never. You're not even going to find anything redacted. These are very high, ultra high secret projects. And through my connection with God, I've been able to have some of these things revealed to me through my deep faith and my trust in God. I've always been a person that always wanted to know the truth and a truth teller since I was a child. And they used me in MK Ultra projects where I was starved, I was chained, I was raped, I was sex trafficked in Hollywood to various people. And again, unbeknownst to me, I had no clue that I was even MK Ultra. So, when I got locked up in the crazy house, I was electronically triggered on my phone when I was at a church in Barrington, Illinois. An image showed up on the phone. And the night before that, they showed me a clone of my brother, who I thought I was going to be meeting at a Starbucks. And my sister-in-law called me and said, "What are you seeing?" I started crying. And I said, "It's John, but it's not. It's a clone of John." And then because I was involved in these covert projects, I'm also a remote viewer by nature. So it's nothing that I studied. I'm also a cipherist. So I decipher ciphers and numbers. And they've used me as a cover person. So I was in cover bands as a singer, which I find that hysterical now. Because as a cover, I was in cover bands. And then I found out that my brother represents Madonna, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye West, Taylor Swift, Jay Leno, Whoopi Goldberg, just a plethora of Illuminatists, still trying to sort out who is good and who is bad amongst 5 pages of list of clients that he has. Also, I found out that he was very involved in the political arena. I found out they took my ovum, my fetuses, and made babies and clones from my DNA. And so I'm recovering memories. I try to help people. I've always tried to help people, but I think we all have been, that's what we're all about. Every single person that's here is a person that is an empathic individual who tries to help other people. And I think that's our life goal. That is my life goal. It always has been. So now I'm on the Dark Outpost. I provide along with David Zublik, who asked me to be his executive producer. I try to provide people that are also truth tellers and that want their stories to be heard, so that the public can actually discern and further research on their own. I say, don't believe anything I said, but I now know I don't need to verify my life. No one here needs to verify their lives. We know what the truth is of our lives.
Yeah.
And we don't need anybody, poking fingers at us and saying that's not you, because I know that it is. I'm not making any money off of it. No bank, I'm not selling t-shirts on the side of the road. And I do what I do for free. And sometimes I take donations because the work that I do requires subscriptions, etc. And it can be very costly. So that's what I'm about. I've always been about trying to help people and disclose the truth. And if there's anyone out there, I'll just put a call out right now. If there's anyone out there that thinks that they have some information that they want to put forth and they want to come on our show, The Dark Outpost, Grizzly's on there. Grizzly's on there.
Yeah, every Thursday at noon.
Thursday he's on there. And so that's why I'm here. And so anybody that thinks that they have something that they'd like to share, information, etc., I give out my phone number. I won't answer unless you're in my contact, so please say who you are. My phone number is 619-779-9771. So feel free to text my phone. I'm on air Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. Central Time to 1 p.m. Central Time. And
619. What was the next set of numbers?
779
779
9771.
9771.
If you have questions about MK Ultra, you've been erased, you have memories that you haven't been unable to retrieve, I have a methodology that worked for me. I could share it. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And if you have any information that you want to disclose, we also fight sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse. So, if you haven't seen The Dark Outpost, it's more conspiracy fact than conspiracy theory.
That is true. Now, with that being said, everybody's been introduced on the panel, and let's jump right into the topic. Now, I'm not trying to put this person on the spot or anything, Tricia, but what have you gathered since we have a new, fresh set of eyes on the topic? I mean, what are you thinking?
Are you asking me? Did you say my name?
Yes, ma'am, Tricia.
Okay, so I'm just going to say that when you told me about this, I found I don't know, it was maybe a 40-minute short documentary on basically all that was going on, the basics. And so the first thing that stood out to me, and I have some things that, to add to it, is the fact that the girl saw this guy walking in the hallway wearing black and a mask, and then just closes her door and then goes back to sleep. I mean, the only thing I could think of was that she had to be, I don't know. I mean, maybe she was super stoned or drunk or whatever, and then just was out of it, not thinking clearly, and then went back to sleep and just not, I mean, I don't know. I haven't I'm not watching the news over and over about it. So I don't know if, if there's more coming out about that where she just would admit I was wasted, I don't know. Okay.
Well,
so
sorry, but there's nothing illegal about that. I mean,
I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying
Okay.
that's just as something, the first thought that I think is weird is that. And so the reason why I say that is because I think our we should be teaching people that when you see something like that, you should call the police.
Yeah.
And tell them what?
And just
I
say,
see a guy out in my hallway wearing black.
yeah,
I
Yes,
don't know who
that's
he is.
suspicious, but it's nothing. It's like they'll Well, did he go away? Yes. Bye. And that's how they handle that. It's
Yeah, but I
nothing.
tell you
Well,
what, being
still
on the
though,
police
I really
department,
feel like the point is that people should act on it and call the police. That's just what I want to say about that. That's my feelings.
and I
Just-
always used to tell people, I'd rather you be wrong 9 times out of 10, 'cause that
Yeah.
one time out of 10, you may be right.
And I
So
say
don't
that
worry about it.
because there's been times in my life where, like, I mean, I've said to people, if this person shows up at your place, at your business, call the police. And they're like, I don't want any drama. I have a family. I'm like, well, exactly. And so then I get a call from the guy saying she showed up and she had guns, and what should I do? I'm like, call the
Call the
police.
police.
What do you
Yeah.
think? Okay. So I'm just saying, like, we should teach people that there's times where you should just call the police. Like, that is one. Okay. So I just wanted to say about that. So I don't know if we want to have a big discussion right there, or if I should just move on to the next thing that I think is
No,
weird.
go ahead and let it roll. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. So then the other thing that I think is weird is, well, I there somewhere in what I listened to, that I don't remember where, but that they found DNA on the sheath that matches at his family house, and they found some in the garbage or something. The same DNA. So it links him there, right there. That's the second thing I just wanted to add. And then the other thing is the 2 times being pulled over for I guess tailgating. And I want to know, wasn't the dad like, what? I mean, don't you? I mean, I know for me, like, being a passenger, I'm a total paranoid passenger. I would be like, slow down. What are you doing? Like, stop tailgating. I want to, why are you racing to the what's happening here? Like, so all that is, I wonder, like, what's that about? How, so that's what I wanted to add. That just seems
Well,
weird.
do you think it was a cry out for help and he saw the officer and did that on purpose?
No.
Okay.
I think that he was, people tailgate. Like, I mean, I can't stand being I'm not good
I'm
being
just
a
asking
passenger.
because when I was on the department, everybody's starting to drop. But when I was on the department, usually when I pulled somebody over following too close, usually they were drunk and intoxicated, or OWI, DUI, depends on what state you're from. And usually I made an arrest. So if not, they definitely got a citation.
Yeah, so twice he was let go, right? It happened twice on the way, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and then the dad just is kind of like, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't know. There's just something about that just seemed weird to me. And I wonder, when were they on this drive? Was it the day after? Do you guys know anything about that?
No, but Tina just popped in and said, I've heard so many times how mean he was to his dad.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
that's
So
some
just being a jerk.
information.
And then the dad
Yeah.
being a pushover.
Probably.
Okay. I just wondered about that part of it, that how soon after that situation happened were they driving to the house? No one knows that?
Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, so far everything is speculating. Even the like the DNA evidence is inconclusive at this time. And I think a lot of things are getting muddied, and the water is getting muddied because you have the families of these people going on podcasts talking about things, and it's spreading all sorts of wrong information out there.
And they should be gagged by the court
Yes, and
not to speak of
Mhm.
any information or about the case
at
to
anything.
anybody.
Their lips should be sealed. And
Yeah.
this killing, these murders reminded me of 2 murders that happened in history. Richard Speck and what's his name? Danny Rawling here in Gainesville, Florida. Both of them escalated in crime. Both of them had problems. Both of them were what you call drifters or derelicts, sleeping place to place, never had a home, never had a house of their own. Abusive family, alcoholism in their past. I got some notes here. Each broke in to the person's home. Now, you think these people are at school? No, they broke into their home while they were going to school. And all these cases. But all of them used a knife. Let's see, each murder was 8 people. I mean, with these
Wow.
2. I don't know how many were killed in this one? 5?
4. Was it 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Danny Rawling, he killed 5 people in Florida, but they linked him to 3 murders in Shreveport, Louisiana. He killed a family, a grandfather, the daughter, and the grandson, the 6-year-old grandson.
Okay.
Okay, they all have criminal backgrounds. They all escalated. First, it was armed robbery, then aggravated assault. All of them served time. And let me hear here. They all picked women as an assault, and even beforehand, like Richard Speck, the day of the murders, he raped a woman. He held her at knife point, took her to a room upstairs at a bar, raped her, stole her gun, and then committed the other crimes. The only reason Richard Speck got caught is because a woman hid under the bed while the murders were happening. And she saw his tattoo saying, "Born to raise hell."
All right, but that doesn't have anything to do with this.
No, but the similarities are there.
Similarities. But here,
that has nothing to
okay.
do with it. It's the similarities. These things are happening. You only got a suspect.
Modus operandi.
You don't have a conviction. You can't convict this guy. He's innocent until proven guilty. There's evidence, but it's all circumstantial for all we know.
Unfortunately, that is correct.
Yeah.
Now with Richard, wait a minute, one more thing. With Danny Rawling, they didn't post what he did to those women until after. He raped them, he murdered them, so they were all bound and gagged, and he posed them, and he cleaned their bodies. They left that information out, so only the killer would know. So you don't have a bunch of people saying things, and that's what I'm getting back to. Families being on the podcast, they really don't know anything because they're kept in the dark. I wouldn't want to know this information. It'd be
Do you
too
think
upsetting.
it's weird that they didn't call the police? Or what did I learn recently? That they found the body but didn't call the police for 8 hours? Don't you think that's weird?
Who found the body?
Who told me that? Was that you, Chris?
Yeah, it was me. Wasn't it? I'm now going from memory. So anybody, Deacon or Tina, jump in. Was it one of the neighbors or one of their friends? Because there were Penny, were there 8 people in the apartment or 6? I think it was 6.
There was like 2 women, I think, that
were not killed or murdered.
Yeah. And then wasn't it that they didn't call the police for 8 hours? That's all I know about.
Yeah, and
yeah, they didn't call the police till noon the next day, and it was the other roommate, like the downstairs roommate. I don't have my notes in front of me. I forget her name. Who called? So the one upstairs had seen him in the mask.
Okay.
And then she went back in her room and didn't call the police, which I thought was really weird. And then the one downstairs.
Can I ask a question about that? Was he seeing a person in the mask in the hallway, or was he in the apartment? Was she the roommate?
In the apartment.
Yeah.
It was a house.
In the
house. I don't know.
Yeah, and he was in the hallway right in front of her door.
You open your door and there's a freaking dude like walking by, like in the dark, like in dark clothes and a mask on.
Okay, is this like a boarding house?
Wouldn't that be a little freaky to you?
There were like a lot of people, I guess, in and out of the house, but no, it's not a boarding house. Like he didn't belong there. Like
I'm saying, I mean, were these all people renting the same house, or were these separate rooms rented by?
No, I think it's like an apartment building.
They were all friends.
Yeah, I know that, and then we all know that
it was a college dorm, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, that's right, a college dorm.
Floors.
Okay, again, you're in college. You see all sorts of things. Seeing somebody in a black, all dressed in black, is not the weirdest thing you probably see in college. in the dorms.
I don't know. See, I kind of beg to differ on that.
It was a dorm. I thought it was a house.
Well, they all went to
We
college.
don't even have our facts
They
straight
all
on
went
this.
to college.
Yeah, see,
Because of one-
that's the problem. Tina, what was it? Tina Hunter, tell us, was it? She says it was Bethany and Dylan, the two that survived, and there were 6 there at the time. Also, Kohberger left and got Pennsylvania on December 13th. So, and this is where it's hard, ladies and gentlemen, because we have so much misinformation out there from the media. It's hard to understand and to try to validate what is actual facts to this case.
The thing that I watched, it seemed just pretty straightforward with what they had at information at that time. And what I understood is that she saw a guy walk down the hall wearing black and a mask on. And like, let me tell you, if I saw that, that would scare the shit out of me. And I would immediately call the police and I'd get out of there or do something, like go, like that is not normal. I don't care. Like that means danger. Like, you know, like be tuned in, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what
That
I'm
means
saying.
danger to a 30-year-old, but somebody in college who's
Well, that's
partying
what I'm
and
saying, like-
studying, it's a different world.
I'm saying people should be taught this stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like it should be
Beware
taught.
of your surroundings.
Yeah, like, you know, like this is something that we should learn from. We can learn from this and help people to, I mean, we have fire drills, you know, like everyone knows about a fire drill, like it's done for a reason. So like people should know some basics, like it's not Halloween. It wasn't Halloween night or something. I don't know. Like that's just how I
Could have been a masquerade party, you know, coming to all day black. Parties are happening all over college.
So Tina Hunter says it was an off-house campus. So we know that. And one house rented by a bunch of girlfriends.
Okay.
Not a dorm house or an apartment building. Sorry.
Not a sorority.
Meant he left for Pennsylvania on the 13th. So she corrected herself. It was a party house where people came and went all the time.
Yeah.
So again,
it was all the girls probably saw the same things they wish they hadn't.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, though, is like teaching people to be more smart about things in general. That's what I'm talking about. It would help people from getting, you know, sexually assaulted. It would help people from, you know, just being more common sense. Like I feel like if the parents could help their, you know, their kids when they're younger, teach them things. These are just how I feel. This is how I feel about it.
Well, I have a daughter that's going to college, and I'll tell you what, I don't care if you're 6'5", 375 pounds. She will put you in an arm bar and break your arm, and she will flip you to the ground in a heartbeat and ride you like a horse with your arm behind her back. So I've taught her a lot of things that were taught to us on the department because we had to have physical tactics and other learning of controlling people and so forth. So
okay,
Glen,
but
go ahead,
when these people were killed, it wasn't an altercation. At least there was never no sign of an altercation, correct?
Right.
Okay, so this person snuck in.
Defensive
wounds.
I'd like to actually read an article from ABC 7. Okay. It's going to give you a timeline. Idaho College murders timeline from off-campus killings to Bryan Kohberger court appearance. Kohberger was arrested more than 6 weeks after the murders of Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, and this is dated Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Moscow, Idaho. More than 6 weeks after 4 University of Idaho students were mysteriously stabbed to death in a house near the Moscow, Idaho campus, a suspect was identified and taken into custody. The 4 slain students were Ethan Chapin, 20, Madison Mogen, 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21. Court documents, including an 18-page affidavit released on January 5th, revealed how police zeroed in on their suspect, Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student at a Washington State University located less than 10 miles away from the University of Idaho. Here's how the case is unfolding. Saturday, November 12th. On the night of Saturday, November 12th, Goncalves and Mogen, lifelong best friends, went out to the Corner Club bar in Moscow, according to Moscow police. Meanwhile, Chapin and Kernodle, who were dating, went to the Sigma Chi house Saturday night, or Chai house. Police said 2 other roommates who survived the attack and are not considered suspects also went out in Moscow that night. Police said Sunday, November 13, about 1:40 a.m., Goncalves and Mogen were seen on a video at Grub Truck, a local food vendor, and used a private individual to get a ride home, getting back at 1:45 a.m., police said. A man seen in the surveillance video at the Grub Truck and the person who drove them home are not considered suspects, according to authorities. Chapin and Kernodle got home at about 1:45, police said. Chapin did not live at the house, but was sleeping over with his girlfriend. Police believe the murders unfolded between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., according to court documents. Kernodle got a DoorDash order at the house at about 4 a.m., according to the affidavit. One of the surviving roommates said she woke up around 4 a.m. from what sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog, according to the affidavit. A short time after, the roommate said she heard someone she thought was Goncalves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here," the document said. But that could have been Kernodle on her phone, because the record shows she was on TikTok at about 4:12 a.m., the affidavit said. The roommate said she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house, the document said. She opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. The roommate then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," according to the documents. The roommate said she opened her door again, and when she heard the crying, she saw a man in black clothes and a mask walking past her. She stood frozen and in shock, according to court documents. The roommate said she didn't recognize the man, who she said walked towards the house's sliding glass door. She described him as 5'10" or taller and not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows, according to the affidavit. At about 4:17 a.m., a security camera less than 50 feet from Kernodle's room picked up sounds of a barking dog and distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud, according to the documents. On the morning of November 13th, the 2 roommates called friends over to their house because they thought one of the victims on the second floor had passed out and wasn't waking up, police said. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call from one of the roommates' phones requested help for an unconscious person. Responding officers then found the 4 victims. Authorities said they do not believe anyone at the house at the time of the 911 call was involved in the murders. After the bodies were discovered, authorities reviewed surveillance video and saw the suspect's white Hyundai Elantra go by the victim's house 3 times before entering the area for a 4th time at 4:04 a.m., according to the documents. Police said they traced the car's travel that night back to Pullman, Washington, where Kohberger lived. Kohberger's phone was tracked heading to Moscow before the attack, but the phone was off from 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m., which is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide, the affidavit said. He also returned to the area of the house where the 4 students were killed just after 9 a.m., about 5 hours after the murders, based on phone records the affidavit also showed. His phone was near the victim's house at least 12 times before the murders, at least as far back as August, according to the affidavit. All of those times, except for one, were late at night or early in the morning. Thursday, November 17, the autopsies conducted determined all the victims were stabbed multiple times. The 4 students were probably asleep when attacked, and some had defensive wounds. There was no sign of sexual assault, police added. Monday, November 21st, family of 20-year-old victim Ethan Chapin held his memorial service, etc., etc.
Thank you.
That's a brief timeline.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Sport Cat, come on, tell me your side.
Well, my understanding is that the second floor, each floor had its own entrance and exit way. So seeing someone in the hallway wouldn't necessarily in a house where you see a lot of people coming and going frequently, especially if it's a college house, probably wouldn't be that outside of the normal. I mean, our government is indoctrinating us to see something, say something, which I personally think is ridiculous, but that's an aside note. At the time, everybody was probably wearing masks on a campus too, so I don't
Correct,
know if
for
that would have been
COVID.
out of the way. So once again, indoctrinated to wear masks. So,
And they were probably all drunk, drinking.
Hello.
we could make that
College.
assumption. So, but
It's a good bet. Let's put it that way.
yeah, and
It's
you know,
Saturday or
Except for
Friday
she
night.
said that she was shocked. So I mean,
She was
I don't think he was. I don't think he was wearing like a surgical mask.
How do
I
you
don't
know?
think that's the kind of mask he was wearing.
oh, it's
How do you know?
also it's also Idaho.
We're
It's very cold
going on
there.
we're going on facts that we hear, real evidence we hear. They didn't specify
It just
that.
said a mask, right?
Right.
Did it say just a mask?
You're picturing something
Yeah.
else, and it could be a surgical mask, a black one.
He-
You
and
know?
Well, the thing is, she said that she
Well,
was
I'm using-
frozen in shock. So
She
it
was
was something that
But
was scary to
Is
her.
is that a after effect?
Right.
You know, is that something she said after the fact? Because if people she found out they got murdered, or she just looked at like,
So then the fact that
Yeah.
they've been able to track him like all those times
Mhm.
going back and forth in that car, and then that when he got pulled over it was the same car, so it just seems very coincidental that
Well,
it's him, and
Newsflash: they can track you from one side of this country to the other. You go through small towns across the country that have tag readers, and those tag readers are hooked up through federal highway system. And
Yes,
I've
anytime
personally-
you use your GPS.
I've personally been in a communications center and seen where they can take and say, I want to see a red pickup truck between the hours of 4 and 8.
Yeah.
And it'll pull up every red pickup. And that's the only thing you see is that red pickup. So,
well, that's great. I mean, like I'm not arguing
well, no,
with you.
you're wanting facts. I'm
I'm
giving
just
you
like
facts.
saying like what it said in the article and what it said.
Well,
it's like the
I
exact same
understand that,
thing,
and I'm
like-
giving you facts and how the system works.
That's fine. I mean, I
so-
don't think that it's not that I didn't know that that's not possible. I'm just talking about what we know. I mean, so
Well,
And
the
that's
police
the
officers
problem,
pulled them
ladies and
over.
gentlemen, is that we don't know. We are making assumptions. We're
Mhm.
basing our images that we are seeing, and this is why we're getting it wrong through the media, because we're getting this information from the media and they're not specifying. They're leaving us open. And Scarborough Sasquatch Station says, Penny, thanks for the news clip info. And Deacon, I think Xana was awake when the murders were taking place upstairs. That was just crazy. I also wonder if she or Ethan got up to check to see who was there and
Well-
chased them back to Xana's room.
Well, didn't you hear what she was saying on the article? They were out past 12. They were at a bar. They were
Yeah.
drinking. They're eating late.
It's a college
And-
town.
Yes. I mean, you come in, you're half hungover by the time you go to bed.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
hearing noise
Still
and
drunk.
pumps and all that.
And there's no
people-
Waffle Houses there that I know of. So
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
Oh,
no, they
man.
went to a food truck, so, and then they got food. They had the munchies. They went home, and they were going to flop, and they were going to go to sleep. They're going to go to pass out. That's what happens. You go out on night, get pissed, you're going to pass out.
yeah,
It's gonna- So hearing all those noises wouldn't set off alarms in a college room in a house with college kids.
I
You'd be
definitely.
lucky. You'd be lucky to hear
agree.
dead silence.
But I'm just talking about the guy. I mean, like honestly, like, I mean, I just think that
Well, you're probably
I just think that
is the image of your mind a ski mask and he's wearing all black like a ninja, or is he just wearing a black suit, a black shirt, black pants, and a regular mask, a surgical mask? That could have been it. We don't know.
Well,
That's the
Tina,
thing.
Well, I'm going by what it said that, in the paperwork,
Oh,
that she said
also,
was
I don't know that
startling to
anyone
her.
heard me, but it's Idaho, so it's probably cold. I don't live there, but
Do you
they
guys not
probably
want
had
it
a
to be
mask.
that guy? Is that why you're being so?
No, but
I'm
it's,
not understanding.
he's
No, we have this
innocent
little thing called the
he's innocent
Constitution.
until
So.
proven guilty.
Okay,
And
I
yes,
mean, I'm not
he has,
saying that he's guilty. I'm just expressing like that she,
well,
saw a scary guy go by. Why didn't she call the police? That's all I'm saying.
I have another comment I'd like to make. You had said earlier, Grizzly, that they dismissed the fact about Kohberger's lawyer representing some of the parents. Well, here it is again, published 5 hours ago, but this time it's Fox News. Okay, and Fox News is saying Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's lawyer also represented Maddie Mogen's parents. And this is Fox News. Bryan Kohberger's defense attorney previously represented at least 2 more of his alleged murders victims' parents. Ann Taylor, the Coontai County public defender, has represented the families of at least 2 of Kohberger's alleged victims in the November 13 home invasion ambush attack that killed 4 University of Idaho students. He is accused of breaking into the death. The lawyer was actively representing Kernodle's mom at the time of his arrest and had previously worked for Mogen's father and stepfather, court records show. So, this has not been dismissed. This is now in mainstream media, unless, of course, you're saying that mainstream media is lying, which we know they do for sure.
That's the problem, is that
Right.
we actually do not know.
Mhm.
And if that is the actual truth, is what you're saying, I do not see in a court of law how a judge in the right mind would rule and let that happen.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that they didn't know at the time the client load that this individual has, because then the lawyer Taylor withdrew from an active case against Kernodle's mother almost a week after she'd been assigned to defend Kohberger following his arrest in Pennsylvania, where police and the FBI took him into custody after a raid on his parents' house in the Poconos. So, as you know, I mean, you can be a DA or a defender or whatever, and you can have a stack of people that you're defending on your docket, and then you have to recuse yourself.
That is correct.
Right. So I'm just telling you what the mainstream media on Fox News. Now, we also know Fox News does tend to taint things, but on the whole, they have to present pretty much, some factual evidence in regards. So
maybe there is some validity to it then.
So he's saying Taylor previously represented Mogen's dad, Benjamin Mogen, on multiple drug charges in 2020. The records show. Now, maybe he represented him and got him off or whatever. He's not representing him anymore, right? Maybe he was his attorney at record at that point, but is not, currently in 2023. Mogen's stepmom, Corey Hatrock, had Taylor represent her also on drug charges. So now what is this actually telling you? Okay. So let's just go away from, hey, this lawyer was representing, the one that's representing Kohberger was representing the mothers and fathers and brothers of family members, right? It's telling you that the family members are drug addicts. They're arrested on drug charges, unless, of course, again, these drug charges, we always have to weigh the facts, right? It's not always one thing. It's many, many things, and you have to weigh every single thing that you're looking at. But basically, it's saying that they were, Benjamin was arrested on multiple drug charges, and Mogen's stepmom, Corey Hatrog, had Taylor represent her on drug charges last year, Inside Edition reported over the weekend. So Taylor was previously replaced on that case as well. So it's what it's saying to you is not only are you in a college town, right? I played a lot of college towns. I'm 64, so I played for 50 years. And that is the currency of the college town is drugs, sex, and rock and roll. That's the currency of the collegiate town. Now, that's not to say that you don't have, certain geeks that are not party goers, but that's the main philosophy in the collegiate atmosphere with the kids. Okay. So they're going to go out and they're going to blow off some steam. They're going to smoke some pot. They're going to drink. They're going to have sex, whatever. Okay. That's the basic gig. But we're also adding the component to this that the parents are doing drugs and getting arrested secret.
not only doing drugs. Hold on, Jim. I'll let
Okay.
you chime in. Then I'm going to go to Elise. Is that they were also got charged for trafficking narcotics.
Aha! Now that makes a big difference.
Yes, that really does. So now we're talking several
So
different
trafficking
levels.
drugs. Now let's add another component to it, because what we report on Dark Outpost is sex trafficking. So when you're trafficking drugs, and as you guys both know, Sport Cat and Grizzly, trafficking drugs, you're going to have sex trafficking right there too. Okay, the two go hand in hand with one another. All right. So what was that house? What was that house that they were all inhabiting? That people were coming and going. What was that house? Were they trafficking from that house? Were the parents maybe trafficking?
It was
We don't.
Party
These are
Central.
all things we just don't know. They're components, but through research and through as the weeks require, each of us is going to come up with a little bit more intel, and we'll be able to more comprehensively, delve into this and then get a better grip and understanding. When they come out with this information and it's forthcoming, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have a lot of misinformation, right? Everybody's,
Right,
or you
right.
have the parroting, right? The Mockingbird media that's going to parrot. Every single Mockingbird media is going to say the same thing. So is
I
Fox
definitely
News
feel like
parroting
it
or telling the
something
truth?
weird. Something definitely weird about the whole thing. For sure.
It is, and that's one of my issues. Now Tina says what she think is very interesting is that the DoorDash was from Pullman, Washington, WA, right? Was 1 mile away from Brian's apartment. And Deacon says, "Oh, Tina, I really didn't know that." And Tina says, "Yeah, it was like a Jack in the Box there, not one in Moscow." So, we got to remember this is a small town, small police department, small court system. Is he going to get a fair trial in that county? Absolutely not. They're going to have to move it. And I think they're going to have to move it several states away.
That's why
or
you're
another
seeing,
state.
you're
And they're
seeing
gonna have to hold it
lawyers
off for a couple of
representing
years.
victims' parents and brothers or whatever, because it's a small little
Mhm.
town.
Yep.
Elise, the
Mhm.
star. What's your take?
I have thoughts on what we were talking about, but I think you guys are covering it really well. I had 2 questions that about things that I didn't know about, and I think would be great for viewers to have like expanded upon, because I know that I listen to stuff to learn new information. So one was for Trish and one was for Jim. Trish, you had oh gosh, okay, Jim, you had mentioned the prior convictions, and so I didn't know about that with Kohberger, and then with Trisha, you had mentioned the tailgating thing, and I didn't know about that. So if you guys could both just like tell more about that, I just thought that was interesting and wasn't in kind of like the standard coverage that I
Okay.
had
Well,
seen.
for
Go
me,
ahead.
I was just comparing the past.
Right,
crime.
but that was something that you had compared, so that gave me the impression that he had prior convictions, which
No,
I hadn't known.
I couldn't find any information on that.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Now, what I said, ladies and gentlemen, now this is Grizzly's opinion and opinion only. So, and I went out on the limb. I said, whoever has done these murders has done it before.
And that's the
And I agree.
That's the point of these these gentlemen who killed like Richard Speck and
Yes.
Danny Rolling.
Foundation, modus operandi.
They all started escalating. They all started very young, and they all had alcohol and substance abuse problems. Their fathers had substance and alcohol problems, violence in their life, and it escalated quickly. Now, Richard Speck, he got kicked out of he was living with his sister, so he really never had a home. He got kicked out. He was trying to get a job where he was going like a merchant marine or something. He was staying in, like, he put his stuff away somewhere and slept in a bathroom at a gas station. And he went to a bar. This woman who was basically always drinking there, he's the one who held her at knife point and raped her. He took her gun. Then he robbed another woman. And he did. It's not like he he punched her so hard he ruptured her liver and she died. And from there, and it was these are only weeks apart, and it's escalating. And this guy, Danny Froling, again, he had the same pattern: alcoholism, drug addict, couldn't.
Is there evidence of alcoholism with Kohberger?
I don't
Can't
think.
say.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's
Yeah.
something that I missed about his background that you know that
The
is
only
causing you to
thing
link, because
that-
you're kind of like implying that. I'm not trying to be. I'm just
not
by the way
sure.
you're talking about it, I keep thinking that
I'm just
there's
saying
something that I
look,
don't know.
there seems to be a formula that when these
Okay.
things happen out of school, it's the same guy but in a different body.
Yeah,
And
the
that is
profile, what
actually-
you're saying.
That is correct. And
You're
Glen,
going to
Glen,
modus operandus. You're going to foundation, and this is how you do forensic investigations. Correct, Grizzly?
that is correct. Now, Scarborough Sasquatch Station said Moscow, Idaho is a college town with a population around 40,000 people. Now, Sportcat, paramedic, EMT for all these years, was it or was it not specific stab wounds precisely in certain organs
Mhm.
to kill them instantly?
I don't know about it instantly, but fairly quickly, I would assume, especially since the first 911 call was for a medical call. And when the paramedic got there, I can tell you the paramedic, if I walk into a room and there's like blood splattered all over the walls and stuff, I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's not a heart attack. So, you know, I would think that the person that did this had knowledge of anatomy and physiology. So yes, and to get back to the college point, I've worked in 3 states, and 2 of the cities were college towns, and it's nothing shocks me. So, and I say that because the college campuses are like I think it's like they're just their own little world. People
Right,
come,
and-
people go,
and-
people
and
move
they
around.
are.
And
And
they're wild.
unfortunately, yeah, I live in Lexington, Kentucky, which we have University of Kentucky and other colleges, you know, right? And some of y'all know my story. And when I got hurt and everything, I was in the emergency room in and out quite a bit. And yes, most of the people in the emergency room were drunk college students doing Superman hero crap, thinking they were indestructible. I don't mean to laugh, but it's true. Now, go
I
ahead.
have a question. Okay, so the personality of an individual who uses a knife as opposed to using strangulation, poisoning, gun,
Mhm.
right? What would be the actual, because this is a knife is up close and personal.
Mhm.
I was wondering the same thing when I was going through this information because
Now I'm having flashbacks. Glenn knows about one of the cases that I worked, and it was a stabbing case, and it mirrors this case almost to a T. It was a house, a party house, and it was for sex and drugs and alcohol only. And they did not have furniture in this house, but only mattresses and
Well-
sleeping bags. So
Okay.
how
Wow.
romantic.
being a detective, I got called out in the middle of the night and said, we need you out here at this street and this house number because we have staff flight out here and there's been a couple people severely stabbed. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting dressed. I'm on my way. I get there and I go around to the in-ground pool side, open the privacy fence up, and it looked like somebody had dumped buckets of blood just everywhere. So, you know, I'm starting to read some of the statements, and I did not let anybody go home. I don't care. I grouped them all up, then I segregated them. I had officers stand with them. And make a long story short, this guy took the same knife, the same type of knife and he had military training, and he got into it with the homeowner, or the guy that was renting the house, and he told the guy, look, you need to leave. He's like, the hell with you. He goes, well, I'll go get my knife or my gun. He's like, you really think I'm scared, do you? Get it. Well, lo and behold, he goes in the house and everybody's like, oh, and it's dark now. Don't forget, it's late at night. He comes outside with the knife and he literally takes this and stabs the gentleman over 23 times. He took the knife away from the guy and used it. And he did it like he was taught in the military. I mean, his intestines were hanging out.
Oh.
That's how bad it was. And a poor gentleman got into the middle of it because they did not know he had a knife and tried to split it up. The only reason he lived, because the knife, what's that bone called, sport cat?
Sternum?
No, in the arm, where your arm bone down to your wrist that splits into two.
Radius ulna.
Yes, yeah. So
what is it?
Radius and ulna.
Right, that's it. Okay.
So the guy that tried to break it up didn't know. He put his arm out, and the guy stabbed it. And when he pulled his arm out, he was like, I got a knife in my arm, and it is like all the way through, and it's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to go to the hospital too. That's the only reason why the guy lived. And this guy was in ICU for, I would say, almost 6-7 weeks.
Oh my God.
We didn't think he was going to make it. Now, here is the kicker. And this is what bothered me and other agencies. I got a phone call. I sure will. I'll do that for you, Penny. I got a phone call, and this girl says, hey, you are the lead detective, right? I said, yeah. So what can I do for you? She's like, well, I just want you to know that that guy has done this before. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Now, let me back up. The only reason why the guy couldn't leave, he got caught so many times drinking and driving, they put a breathalyzer interlock on his car, so he couldn't leave. So the officers caught him at gunpoint, him sitting in the car, and he was trying to get somebody else to blow, and they're like, oh, hell no, I ain't going to do that. No. So, and the lady was like, I need to tell you the story. I was like, yes. It's like, how long ago was this? She was like, not even 4 months ago. And I was like, what type of knife was it? And she was like, describing exactly the same type of knife. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure. I wasn't there. Was not participating in the investigation. But basically the same thing happened. So I was like, hey, I want you to call Jeremy. That's the head prosecutor. And tell him what you told me. And then she got real nervous. She said, well, I don't want to be in the media. I said, you're not going to be in the media, hon. But I'm going to write this up. But I want him to hear the words out of your mouth like you told me. 2 days later, I get another phone call. And somebody gave me the message like, hey, this call's important evidently because this guy's going crazy. He wants you to call him. I'm like, well, how many times did he call? That was my first question. They're like, man, this guy's called so many times, we don't even know. So I went back to the office and I got him on the phone. I'm like, hey, what's going on? This is Detective so-and-so. And he was like, man, that guy did the same thing at one of my parties. And I'm like, you live in Louisville, right? He goes, yeah, how'd you know? And I said, somebody already came forward and told me what happened. He was like, okay, well, tell me what you know. And I'm like, are you a reporter? That's the first thing that went through my mind. He was like, no, I'm telling you, this guy's done it before. I said, yes, I know. Somebody came forward. I said, why don't you tell me what you know, if you don't mind? Ladies and gentlemen, it was another incident 9 months prior to my original case. Now, with that being said, now this is where I get angry. They did not charge him with attempted murder. They charged him with nothing. The guy that did the stabbing played the guy. And the reason why they did that is because they ruled in self-defense. Because he took the knife away. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, self-defense 2 or 3 times, I'm down with that. Okay? No problem. But when you're going up to 20 to 23 times and you're flaying somebody that bad nonstop, I mean, that is not self-defense.
How many times were these people stabbed? I never got that.
I don't think we actually have
Yeah, I
that
don't
count,
think they've
do we?
released that information.
Details are forthcoming.
Okay, just like in the Gainesville case, they didn't release the fact where one girl was knifed so hard in the back it came out her sternum and stuff. They kept that stuff quiet until way after the trial.
Wow.
So,
Jim, have you studied serial killers,
no,
Jim?
ma'am.
I tell you what, they are very interesting, and I'm not being
I need to
one
sleep
of those
at night. I
types.
can't do that.
Well, actually,
Well-
I had to actually study a case because I was working with Megan Walsh. Still am. She's on our show, daughter of John Walsh. And I did over 30 shows about John, her father. And one of the cases was with Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas. So that was a case that I had to study to try. And it's a case that still is basically not really solved to anyone's satisfaction. Willis Morgan wrote a book on it. He's been researching it for 40 years. So when we're sitting here talking, I just want to put that out there, making conjectures or whatever, you have to wait until more evidence is released to the public, right? Like Jim, you were saying, it's going to be withheld. 40 years, Willis Morgan believes that it was Dahmer that killed Adam Walsh, Megan's brother.
Oh, wow.
And he's written a book about it. He said he was there that day. I'm from Florida. I lived at
Just
1255
moved back.
I lived in Miami. I lived at 1255
Fort
Northeast
Lauderdale.
Street. I lived there too. And I was born in Hollywood. Okay. So I was born at the Hollywood Memorial Hospital. Well, when I started working with Megan Walsh, I found out she was born there too. Which I've never met anybody that was born in a hospital. I don't even think my siblings were born in my hospital, right? Just odd.
I met one person born in Florida. So.
Yeah, right. Now,
Well,
I'm from
Elise,
Florida.
I was about to say, Elise is from Florida. Now, Elise, did you have any other questions or comments you want to add? I didn't mean to jump in and cut you off. but
Oh no,
I
it's
had
okay.
to-
That was fascinating.
I was having
loved
all the flashbacks.
the parallels. Yeah.
So,
But I
Um,
think Grizzly's on the right track. I mean, depending on the severity. Now, if it's like the guys I talked about, it was about power. They wanted these girls to suffer, and they did.
mhm.
They wanted control over them, and they had it. They were monsters.
Mhm.
These people, were they killed in their sleep, or was there some defensive wounds? I mean, they
And on
captured.
some of them there were, but they alluded to the fact that they were sleeping, but maybe they weren't sleeping. Maybe they were passed out. And then
Yeah.
when we were trying to
They're
kill them,
drinking.
that's
Yeah.
why they had some defensive wounds because they woke during the attack. But that's just conjecture.
Yeah, we don't know.
Mhm.
So,
Well-
Elise, you were wanting me to add to about the tailgating.
Yeah. I just thought it would be good if you explained it a little bit better for people if they didn't know about that, and then how that
So
kind of
there's
adds to the evidence against him.
Yeah, it was like from what I could tell, it looked like the cam that was on the police officer. And so it
Mhm.
was, he's at the window on the passenger side, and that's where the dad is sitting.
So
And
it was Kohberger and his dad, and then
Yep.
when did it take place?
That's what I'm trying to find out. Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, you
was
weren't
it
sure
like
about it.
the day after? Was it later in that day? I don't know. But
I
Okay.
think-
Okay.
he was pulled over twice apparently on the way.
I think it was about a month later. They were clearing out, I guess, the college campus.
Okay.
So he was headed back home to be with his family.
Okay. See, thank you, because I wasn't sure about that part.
Okay.
So yeah. So
now he was pulled over by a state police officer. Secondly, a county police officer first. And the state police officer knew he'd just been pulled over 10 minutes beforehand because they talked on the radio.
Okay. Yeah.
The tailgating is also important because was he stalking these people? Was he stalking these girls?
That's what. Didn't one of them say that she had a stalker? Was it Kaylee had said that she had a stalker, and then there was the Snapchat or Instagram. I think it was Instagram messages to one of them as well.
Yeah, somebody said that in our last show. That is correct.
Yeah.
And they got the cell phone
that.
ping and everything. Pamela says, let me scroll back up. Everybody's talking. And we greatly appreciate your comments. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, admins and moderators, thank you so much for letting us go live in your groups on Facebook. Thank you so much. Pamela says a lot of people grown up being bullied and don't stalk and kill. Well, that is true, but unfortunately, the environment that you are raised in does affect you in some form or fashion. She also says, I'm thinking something bad happened growing up and I blocked it. I blocked it out. But mom says nothing like that happened. But my dad is gone now. But he was very abusive, but not physically abusive. Well, and that can actually leave scars on a person, whether you're young or older or growing up. I mean, it does.
Oh, yeah.
And Scarborough says, Pamela, perhaps there is a trigger point of no return, bullied persons becoming a killer. Well, unfortunately, when I was on the department, we had to watch, part of our training was active shooter, and we would have to watch the actual videos of the shootings in school. And I'll never forget the first time I watched the one here in Kentucky. I mean, I didn't even realize that I got up out of my desk and walked up to the projector screen and just stood there, and I was horrified because they had audio and they were taunting the students as they were shooting them. And it was like unbelievable. And so if you look at the statistics today with the school shootings, and we're not going to get on that subject, everybody, but yes, they have been bullied or picked on at some point in their school life. And unfortunately, parents do not have their firearms secured.
So I can add to something about, they were talking about the suspect and a couple things. There was a guy that spoke about him and said that he made a comment to, the suspect made a comment to this guy saying that he could have any of the women at that particular, whatever, that bar. He could have any of those women at the bar. So I don't know if they were trying to say that there was something to do with possibly why those, women were killed or something. I just wanted to add that little part of that. I don't know. I just am saying like what
meaning maybe they rebuked his advances and then that caused the furor and the anger enough in which he then decided decisively to kill them. But I think he planned this for quite some time. I think he stalked these women, and he was going for his PhD in criminology.
Yeah.
Right.
He also, put forth this thing, and one of his theses is asking questions like, how to get out, how to exit, and what would you do if you were a criminal, etc.
Exactly.
And the guy was smart like a fox. I think it was all
but he wasn't smart enough to think about those cameras catching his car
and the knife.
Right.
Honestly, impulsive. Okay, I didn't say he was brilliant. I said he was smart.
No, but you're saying that he's smart enough to do all this,
yes,
and yet he wasn't smart enough to get another car.
Yeah,
or
but
find a way in.
but ladies and
Smart but
gentlemen,
impulsive.
most criminals do not do everything perfectly.
Mhm.
Okay.
They always leave some type of DNA evidence or evidence behind,
Mhm.
and they make mistakes.
Yes.
Now, with that being said, I do understand somebody made a comment in the news that she was being stalked on, was it TikTok? Or it was one of those platforms.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And, you know,
He had
was
sent
it
her a couple messages like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up?
now?
Which isn't really stalking. It's he sent like 3 messages to her
Mhm.
But what was
and then
she
followed 2 of
thinking?
them.
Yeah, what was she thinking when he got those, or she got those messages? And what were those messages about? Which we don't know, you know, because we can't talk
That
to them.
was there. That was like I think it was like in the affidavit or something. It was like
Instagram.
I read that somewhere, yeah, and it was just like, hey, what's up, kind of a thing. And then there was like 3 messages like that.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Deacon. She said it's Instagram. So
Mhm.
go on, Elise, tell us some more.
So my kind of impression of him with the criminology major and all of that, and there is usually with serial killers, there's like killing animals, there's the abusive past, usually there's like some kind of sex abuse, there's all these things, right? And so yeah, there's probably some kind of ramp up, but also I feel like he's a murder nerd, like this is someone that had this fantasy. He's egotistical, right? Because that was what the classmate had said about him.
Yeah.
And my impression is he has this fantasy of like he probably loves these different serial killers and thinks they're cool. And honestly, like true crime kind of glorifies serial killers sometimes, like people try not to, but there is that kind of like culture of it where, everyone knows their names, everybody talks about them. I listen to true crime podcasts. I used to
Mhm.
listen to Last Podcast on the Left a lot. I still do sometimes, and you try not to do that, but it still kind of comes out. And I feel like he had this fantasy of like, oh, I'm gonna commit the perfect crime. Like I'm gonna,
What
be one
makes
of
you
those
say that?
guys.
How do you know
Huh?
what have you read that leads you to that conclusion that he has
The
fantasies
fact,
of it?
well, there was the thing with the sister in the horror movie, right? But that's not really, it's just the fact that I'm just kind of giving my conjecture of it based on his major, based on the super specific questions he asked. Maybe there's something that he, set him off with the women. I'm sure that there was something like that caused him to pick them as a target, but I don't really think it was like a crime of like passion. This is just me. This is
No.
just my thoughts. I
Wasn't
feel like
passion.
this was like, I want to kill somebody. Oh, I'll kill these girls. I don't like them, or whatever. Like, I feel like he just kind of he just wanted to kill somebody. He just wanted to do this. There's like, what country is it? I want to say it's like Japan or something. There's like, do you know like the kindergarten shootings? It might be like
Yeah.
Korea. It's like an Asian.
Yeah.
Do you remember which country that is?
No, not right offhand.
Okay. But kind of my point of that is in other countries, they have like kindergarten shootings. And that's just like a regular thing that happens. Like people go into kindergartens and shoot kindergartners. That doesn't happen in America, and we don't talk about it. And the thing is I don't think that happens in America because the media doesn't cover it.
Mhm.
Like people don't have that in their head as like, oh, I'm going to go do that. We have school shootings because that's what gets covered because it's like this meme, it's like this repeating idea. And so that's
Yeah.
what I feel about him.
I think he thought about it for quite some time because he has 2 sisters. One is in the mental health field, but Amanda Kohberger is the one that appeared as Lori in the 2011
Mhm.
flick 2 days back about a group of young students who go hiking in the remote woods and meet their grisly end at the hands of a maniacal killer who's won their trust. It bears eerie similarities to the knife attacks in remote Moscow, Idaho, that left 4 of the college friends stabbed to death in their beds. And the guy who directed it, Kevin Boone, says, "You're effing kidding me. Her brother's that guy? GD, man. Holy cow." 2 days back was the the name of the film, and the director was Kevin Boone. Boone is also a professor of English and Media Studies at Penn State Mont Alto, and he explained he made the film with the students and cast the aspiring actress who was his sister in 2011. I wonder how many times did this kid watch this movie? In it, it says, I remember her well. I directed the movie. I wrote the movie. I cast her. She's a lovely woman, very nice. I liked her a lot. The film follows a group of environmentally conscious students who go in the woods on a 6-day mission to catch forestry students suspected of illegal forestering. According to the promotional materials, things quickly go wrong as students are missing and are found slashed by knives and left to bleed out, hacked with a hatchet, caught in a bear trap, and at least one character is killed and then bound to a tree. Multiple students end up getting murdered by a twisted peer with a previously unknown connection to the woods, but not Amanda's Lori. As things start to get weird, she flees and is seen safely back on campus at the end of the film.
That's the plot to Friday the 13th. You know,
That's the plot of this girl's. That's the plot of this guy's sister.
Yes, but I'm saying it's so common. Are you trying to say that he got inspiration from this?
I'm saying that it was his sister who was intimately connected with the movie Stabbing College Kids. I'm saying he watched his sister in this movie over and over again. I don't care about any other slasher films. This was his sister. So yes, I think he was motivated by that.
Well, Pamela says, I believe the investigators have a lot more evidence that they're keeping close for trial. Absolutely, Pamela.
Absolutely.
They do. And she says also, and I'm going to make a comment after this, I cannot imagine seeing the killer in your face and knowing you're going to die.
I don't even want to think about that.
Honestly believe
It's horrible.
Xana and Ethan saw him and were killed fighting for their lives. Food delivery, time, etc., and so on.
I mean, yes, that is a plot of 1,000 different movies. But the fact that his sister's in this movie, I think he focused this because it's a family member. And this is just my feeling that he actually watched this movie a lot and, and got off on it.
That's your theory. Please state it's your theory. No,
that's my.
You're putting out a theory. You're putting out a theory.
It's my personal feeling. Okay, I'm giving a subjective feeling.
Okay, but you're saying I think he did this and I think he did that. You're laying out a plot line here.
I'm saying this is my. Jim. I'm
okay.
giving
Okay. You're saying it, but at the beginning you did not say this.
All right.
I am saying
this is my. That's why we're here today.
This is my feeling predicated upon the fact that his sister was engaged in this movie, and then his life parallels the same thing. So I'm just giving my personal feeling on this.
Go for it.
All right. So let me give you all some facts, right? From being in law enforcement and knowing some studies from the FBI and some statistics that people don't know. Right now, there is a large number, and I don't remember the estimation, in America that are serial killers. They're not even known about or caught.
Oh, I believe that. I believe it.
And the number is so incredible, you just can't fathom. Now, with that being said, Trisha, what state you live in?
Alabama.
Elise, Florida. Glen, Georgia. Or is it Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay. So hypothetically, let's say hypothetically, I am a bad person. I'm a 48-year-old person and I move around a lot. I live down the street from Trisha. Somebody shows up murdered and it was her neighbor. Well, I was just renting a house. A month or two later, I'm gone. Well, on the way, 60 or 80 miles down the road, somebody picks me up and I murder that person. Now, in her town, on her street and the other murder victim is not going to be connected, because the agencies and department do not talk to each other. Okay. Now, if it's a gunshot and shell casings, then yeah, they can go through similarities and all that. But we're just talking murder. Okay. Now I go to Florida. I live around Elise. So let's say 7 years. Down there by the swamps, all the pythons and alligators. I do 37 of them down there over across the 5 to 7 years. Man, it's getting too hot. People are getting close to on my trail. So I'm going up to Tennessee.
Oh, there you go.
I go to Tennessee, and lo and behold, I do another 7 to 9 more. Nobody knows about anything, but
Right.
I screwed up in Tennessee, and they caught me off one, which they don't know about the others, and I don't know if they know about the others. So now they're going to play that good cop, bad cop in the interview room. Oh, let's get it off your chest. You know, it's okay, you know, and everything like that. And, you know, we need to tell the truth and be honest. And the person slips up, was like, yeah, I did 2, maybe 3. And then officer just sits back and is like, yeah, we know. It's okay. No, it's not okay. And then while they're sentenced in prison, he tells about the other people. You see where I'm going with this, Jim, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard things like that, you know, in my also my watching different documentaries, and
It happens.
how they find they come upon other people who they think is, you know, they're not sure, they didn't know who it was, a Jane Doe or whatever, and then they think, oh, that might have been connected to that guy also, you know. Yeah.
It is. I mean, look at the torso killer. We brought that up on the last show with Jeanette. You know, he started from New York, and he slaughtered quite a few people, and he was throwing body parts out along the highway, room, like nothing, like trash.
Yes, in Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas case, they confessed to over 600 murders that they did not do. I believe that they were doing that to close cold cases that actual police officers were engaged in. They wanted to close those cold cases. There are police officers that are serial killers. They're trained.
Oh God.
I was married to a police officer.
No, actually, there have been cops that have been convicted 30 years later for being a serial killer.
Yes.
Okay.
They're trained. So
yeah.
I haven't studied extensively serial killers. Okay, but I'm actually forced to, and there's an individual that is in our life right now. I call my best friend my sister, who we were going to write a book about, and it's called Crooked Cops and Crooked Cowboys, and it's involving serial killers. And also Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole were serial killers. I've been, forced, when I was examining that case, there are over 10,000 pages of litigation on Willis Morgan's website for Adam and their individual. There's about 4 individuals that have written books about the Walsh case, and they're still fighting about, who actually did it, although the person that was blamed for it was Otis Toole after he was dead. And that's a whole another thing. I spent the last year studying that. So, when I'm giving, a feeling as an empath and as a person, I'm not saying, Jim, just to address what you were saying, well, you're putting this out there. I'm not putting it out as fact. I'm putting it out as, this is my feeling as an empathic individual, and from being a researcher, it's a feeling that I have. I also, and no, I can't bank that and take it to court. And I wouldn't ask anybody else to verify that. I'm just saying my gut feeling is that this guy's done this before.
And I agree. Now, Pamela, let's address Pamela's Pamela's statements, okay? And I always will agree to disagree. I will always take a challenge at any time because I am fair across the board. I believe that you are innocent until proven guilty. I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that our court system does not work properly like it should. Okay. That is a fact. Now, Pamela says, always tell people don't go out and get screwed up on alcohol and or drugs that you don't know what's going on around you. It's dangerous for you and other people too. Well,
Yeah.
Pamela, times have changed. You got these drugs, fentanyl on the market, they're lacing pot with, they're lacing money with, they're lacing other narcotics with it that one hit, you're dead. Now, the county I worked in was going up so high with overdoses, they had to step up and try to figure out what to do to stop it. Yes, they issued all of us Narcan. Yes, they did. But Narcan, you know, you got to be in a certain temperature. You couldn't keep in the glove box when it was hot. You couldn't keep in the car when it was cold. And you had to take care of it. Now, you also state that you believe, Pamela, that he will get a fair trial, that the right jurors is the key, that there are people that will study the evidence and be fair and biased. I disagree with you. There's no way, not in that small town, not because of the parents and family members coming forward, talking about, I almost said a nasty word, which I never do, but talking about stuff that they don't or shouldn't be talking about. That's why they're not in the loop in the investigation. In a small town, word gets around. You know, I had to keep certain things from my officers when I was undercover because they had loose lips. I had my own office. I mean, think about that. I was on not a huge department. But
Well, I'm going to say that, who I am, I would like to think positive for me. I myself would like to see that it is just able to be, I don't know, done in as most of the best way it can possibly happen. You know, I mean, that's just me. You know, I feel sad for the families. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely, we feel
that
sad.
happened to them, and just wanted to make sure that I said that. I want, I care, and have compassion, and I'm very thankful that I made it through that time frame in my life when I was being stupid. I was drugged at one time, and I woke up in time, and I was on a boat, and I'm thankful that I was in the harbor, at the dock, and that I'm also thankful that he let me go. And so I mean, I'm just saying, like, from my perspective, I would like it if maybe schools would add some extra little teachings to people, so that they can learn to be safe and act in the moment, in the reflex, and that's all. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So Scarborough Sasquatch, and I'll let you talk, Jim. He says literally a lynch mob mentality. The person is guilty in the media, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
That is the actual truth.
In social media.
Us, as citizens of the United States, believe everything we hear or see on TV or social platforms. That's what we call fake news.
Mm-hmm.
They want their numbers up. And like I
I
said
mean, you
about
definitely
the,
have to be.
Go
You have to
ahead.
be. You have to be a critical thinker, and think for yourself. And that's not everyone is. I mean, a lot of people, yes, but not everyone just takes everything that they hear as the truth. Thank God. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and Scarborough replied, not a fair trial in a small town of Moscow, Idaho. Yes, it's sad indeed.
Yeah,
And
not in a small town.
Deacon says, not all of us. No, I didn't say
Mm-hmm.
everybody in America
Yes.
does that. But
I have so much
we-
experience, Grizzly, with the corruption within the court system, because these are things that we report on, on a daily basis. I was married to a sergeant. He was a Carlsbad sergeant. He was also an EMT at one point. He was also a sheriff. His father was a deputy sheriff that built the Deputy Sheriff Museum in Old Town in San Diego. Knew pretty much everybody. I work for some high-powered law firms. I work for Luce Ford Hamilton Scripps. Moses Luce wrote the charter for San Diego. That's how long that law firm, and it's still in existence. So people in my family were military, unfortunately. But a lot of corruption that I have seen throughout the years. And then, because of my life, I'm very skeptical. I trust virtually no one. I have a very small circle of trust because of finding out that everyone in my life lied, and they are also involved with satanic rituals.
Well,
satanic ritual abuse.
you don't know your neighbors. You don't know who your true friends are.
Nope.
You don't.
You don't know who your judges are, because your judges also are infiltrated and corrupt. You have factions within the military. You have a governmental faction. You have presidents that are corrupt. So I urge everyone to please research everything. Don't take anything that I say, as fact, because I'm just going to express my opinion, which we all, should have a right to have an opinion. That's what a free America is. And I do a lot of research, but, if I'm wrong on something, I say I'm wrong. My feeling about this particular case, and I haven't studied this case, Grizzly, I told you that, but my innate feeling is that this guy has done this before, and we may never know. I mean,
That is correct. And that is my personal opinion with my background, my studies, my research that I've conducted over the years, and seen through other investigations like Jim has done. It is probably correct.
yeah, I found it. I thought you did study serial killers, because you brought up, Jim, the Speck case, which that was like, wow.
Well, because it sounded so familiar. This sounded so familiar to what happened in Gainesville in 1990, and it sounded so. And then when you do bring that up, it comes up with Richard Speck on the internet, and the cases are very similar. Now the killers are not. I mean, like I said, they're the same person, but a different body. That's all there is
Right.
to it. They both grew up horribly. They were both outcasts from society, and we don't know anything about this young man who they suspect is the killer. But again, I think my instincts tell me this is a media red herring, or the police are sending out a red herring, because the real investigation can't be bothered by outside influences. So they send out this red herring. Here, look over here. Look at this. Watch this. And the smoke and mirrors are here, but the real action's over there.
That's a good point, because they are actually still taking tips and they're still getting information in. So it's an open and active investigation. And even today, they said that that both the criminal prosecution and the defense are both hiring outside investigators. So that's a very good point, and I don't disagree with you there.
And we know that that's what the media does. They say, look over here while we're doing something over there. So you know, could also have, there's a Vegas case that I studied a couple of Vegas cases, one of which Molly Mall was involved, and a man named Ocean, and they were sex trafficking through the hip hop industry, but they were working in conjunction with the LV, the Las Vegas Metro PD, and they were selling women high dollar, 10,000 a night liaisons with princes, etc. And so, you know, there's always an obfuscation. One of Megan Walsh's best friends, Lindsay, was from Skinny Atlas. She was lured to Vegas, and then with the promises of being a dancer with Solomon Barron. And Solomon Barron was the manager for Orlando Brown, who was on You're So Raven, That's So Raven. And when he lured her there, then she actually became a high dollar escort, was involved in the sex industry, which that wasn't her, you know, her thing. She was lured there, then she was trapped. When she wanted to get out, and this is again a premise that I have and that Megan also shares, when she wanted to get out, he said the only way out, he did both, the only way you're going to get out is dead, and they will never find your body. 3 years later, they found Lindsay's legs from Vegas in Chicago, in Illinois, somewhere.
Oh my God.
That
And
figures.
yes, and so, but Solomon covered his tracks. Solomon went back to Skinny Atlas, but he had LVPD or someone in there kidnap and kill this woman and do what he said he was going to do. And then when he came back, he told his girls there, this will happen to you.
Now, Scarborough Sasquatch says copycat murders, and that has actually came across my mind. He's getting ideas and thoughts from somewhere. But Moscow, being a small town, anybody that's listening, look up Bardstown murders in Kentucky. Bardstown murders in Kentucky.
It
And
was
it goes-
recorded somewhere, Grizzly, that during his PhD study, he had to do a poll and write a thesis, and I'm not sure the exact wording, but he had posted all over the internet information about serial killers, and that the feeling, and in one of the posts, he had stated that, and it's now deleted, and I don't remember which news source I read this off of, but that he had said he couldn't feel it and he would like to know what it felt like.
That's interesting too, because psychopaths don't feel.
And we also learned, ladies and gentlemen, from one of our shows, that we found out that psychopaths do not dream.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting fact.
So if someone was going to stab somebody, right, the up close and personal thing, they could do it because they don't feel anything.
Well,
no,
let's talk about.
I don't think that's true. I think they feel power, and like rape,
no, I'm talking about. Yes, you're right. They do feel power. I'm talking about
control and
empathy.
all that. You're not, empathy.
Yes, they don't feel empathy. Okay, so you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
To tell somebody who might be a sociopath, you do this. A sociopath it's a reflex. There's a yawn building up with the person you do that to. And if they do not yawn back, it's an indicator that they have no empathy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then we're all psychopaths or sociopaths.
Well, we're not in the same room. We're through a video camera. It's
right.
Like
so let me briefly hit on this Bardstown murders. It's still ongoing, okay? And it goes like this. About 7 to 9 years ago, a Bardstown police officer was getting off duty, and he got off on a ramp to get off the highway, and there were tree limbs in the middle of the road. So he stopped.
Was there a
He gets
Sasquatch
out.
there? I'm just joking. Sorry. Bad.
And he goes to remove it, and he was ambushed with the guy with the shotgun.
Oh my God.
Unloaded and killed and left in the middle of the road.
Oh God.
Now, with that being said, it goes so deep that within 5 months, they have another 4 to 6 murders in this small town. And it's all related, that they're finding out that he found out something on someone, probably cartel related, in old small town Bardstown. You know, small town. Nobody would think of it. And it's still going on. FBI was just out there 4 or 5 months ago looking over this guy's land and back in his pond. So, like I said, when you look it up, feel free to do so.
It reminds me of in Florida, you have all the cane fields in central Florida. Little towns, there's nothing there. Population's very small, very mixed. And yet a friend of mine who lives near there in Clewiston, Florida, said that most of the sugarcane fields are owned by drug dealers because that's how they launder their money and launder their product. It flies into the fields. They know what's going on.
Well, I believe it. You know,
So-
why do you think Al Capone and all the mobsters back then, you know, when you say Al Capone, you know, they took their money, which was gold and silver, not paper, and they buried it. He knew he was going to jail. And Jeanette was actually involved on that case, and she found one of his hoards, one of his stashes for a group of treasure hunters. And we did that show tonight. So, you know, now it's all about paper, and that's why they switch paper currency out to different pictures on paper, because it forces these people to turn in that drug money at a point to exchange it. But they wash it. They do it all the time.
They are way ahead of the game than most of the population.
Yeah. But my heart really does go out to the murder victims' family. I'm really, really sorry to hear what transpired. It's very sad. Hopefully, at one point in time, that we will actually know the truth and find out what actually transpired. But, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it's going to be in Moscow.
Oh, no.
I really don't.
So there was an interesting article I read. I'm a bit of a knife nerd, and this person wouldn't say whether or not that this was being done or had been done on this case. But if a knife is used and a piece of the knife breaks off, which isn't uncommon if you hit a bone or whatever, I kind of don't suspect that on the knife that they're questioning on this, but they can actually take that piece of metal, melt it down, separate the components back out, and then find out which knife manufacturers smith or make that type of metal.
That is correct.
And that's that was pretty impressive. I knew that from working on several federal things that we have the capability of putting small things in a sampler and coming up with, you know.
Do you know that the FBI has car paint chips for every manufacturer of car that's ever been made?
Oh, yeah.
And they actually start doing that. Well, I don't know if they still have the books or not, but when I was growing up, the departments had books of the front ends and the back ends and the side of each make and model of cars and the years of cars. So
Yeah, I don't think they're on books anymore. We've moved past that. You're kind of old, so.
But you know, the thing though is, and ladies and gentlemen, this is just my opinion only. No disgrace to anybody out there in Moscow, not anybody out there in the audience listening. But I think there's more to this story than what we are known about.
I think so. It has to. It just seems a little weird.
Yeah, I think it's a
Weird
bigger
stuff.
picture, and I would not be surprised, and I'm sorry, local law enforcement or whoever, it's involved. But I think there's other people that's tied into this because it is a small town. And you take what has transpired in so many months, and where are we at?
Do you think it's possible that there is more than one person involved?
Yes.
Well, that's actually what we thought about before because, one person on 4,
Yeah.
one person on 6,
Mhm.
but like Jim says, drunk, passed out, whatever. And some had, Penny says, defense wounds and Sport Cat said the same thing. And,
Mhm.
but
It could be
really,
a lot of things because this person could have been at the bar with them, little something in the drink, a little something in the smoke, made them even more tired, made them even more groggy. I mean, it just needed time to kick in. But
Yeah.
again, we don't know if we're dealing with a serial killer or a one-time killer or a contract killer. We just don't know. All I know is that the young man they have as a suspect doesn't fit the serial killer personality. There's as far as we know, we would have reports. Somebody would have said something. Oh, he used to be cruel to animals. He used to be this. That's never come out. We had in Florida, like in Fort Lauderdale, cats being killed. I mean, viciously killed and displayed on the front lawns of their owners, stuffed in mailboxes. It was disgusting. And they caught the young man. He was a high school student. And you could tell by the way his mother reacted. She goes, I got a bad seed here. He's just wrong. But she didn't say anything. The father paid a lot of money and they moved and they were out. Never saw him again. But he is, in my opinion, he's a fledgling serial killer because he
in
is.
30 years from now, we'll see him on CNN with a
I hope
number
not. Don't say that.
of uncounted
Come on.
bodies.
Mhm.
It's Trisha.
Sorry.
Think positive. Yes. Amen.
I mean,
Think
hopefully they
positive,
will get him
Trisha.
help. I mean, like that's what I'd like to see.
There's no help for that.
Parents, do
You got to
not get
put that
help.
away.
That's getting him help, putting him away if that's the case. Whatever,
That's getting us help. He's got to go.
okay, whatever. I mean, like doing something about it is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Well, here's the things, ladies and gentlemen. In Glen or Sport Cat, Penny, Jim, Trisha, we all can agree on one thing: is that there are always warning signs,
Right.
of your children,
Yes.
while they are growing up that parents do
Right.
not see or pay attention to.
That's it.
Now we have cell phones and social platforms that were always on our phones, not watching what they're doing on the computer. Remember when we used to monitor our children on the computers? I did. I about ripped the computer off the wall one night with my oldest.
Nice.
So, yeah, because she was in a virtual reality room and she's sitting on an old man's lap on the screen.
Oh my God.
I said more than that. So,
whoa. Yeah, no,
So-
I totally agree with you.
now,
sure.
Scarborough Sasquatch Station says, why did Bryan Kohberger choose Washington State University to attend across the country from his parents' home in Pennsylvania?
The professor there that teaches that curriculum has written multiple textbooks that are taught throughout the college world. So what better place to go to than there?
That makes sense.
Yeah, that actually does. I mean, if you want the best, and yeah. Well, he says Moscow, Idaho is a border town with Washington State. And now Scarborough Sasquatch says, wow, virtual reality? Well, it's not like it is today, sir. It's totally different. But back then, that people used to make rooms, and they can go in and make your own person. You can interact and chat with them, and
You can still do that.
so, well, mine are older, 18 and 26, 27. So
I
12:15 is when they got pulled over. Tina Hunter says 12:15.
12:15.
Yep, December 15th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Tina, you've been a big help. But, and like Jim says, ladies and gentlemen, what we say here tonight and what has been said are not the facts until they are the facts in a court of law after the case has been presented. Because we're going off what we know from the media, and I don't think we ever got an official report from the police department. I don't think we actually got a report for the coroner either, did we?
I don't believe
Hasn't
so.
been released.
Anything I ever heard was a public statement, which was generic.
So, and Scarborough Sasquatch says, thank you, Glen Sportcat.
I didn't do it. And I'm an expert on nothing, so that way I don't have to hire more lawyers.
Right, me neither.
And I've already had a stalker. I don't care to do that again either. So.
But
I have many stalkers.
Tricia,
Yes.
I want to say this open on the mic for the first time.
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa.
And Jim, it's going to hit home.
Oh.
So,
Hold on, Jim.
Hope it's good.
Sounds serious.
Hope it's good stuff.
I dated a girl years ago. She was from Florida. And I brought her up. And she had a son that had some medical conditions.
When you say
Autism.
you brought her up, what do you mean?
I was shocked that dated a girl, but go ahead.
Right, me too. I'm
So basically, I made it happen where she was able to come up.
Okay.
To your, do you mean like to where
Live
you
with
live
me.
in another state?
Yes.
Okay.
So from Florida to Kentucky.
Gotcha.
And the child was very disturbing. And with all the training I had and what Jim talked about and what I read and studied, I saw the red warning signs, the flags coming up, popping up. And I had to sit down and have this conversation with the mother.
Good.
And she started freaking out and crying. And lo and behold, it came to pass that at the time I was, Glenn, what do you call it when you're a cop and you're over the complexes and stuff? What's the term? My mind went blank.
Over the complexes?
Yeah.
Oh, the rent-a-cop for the
You're no help.
Are you talking about like when you're trying to, what do you mean? Give me a
So-
little more detail.
So basically,
he's talking about where you are the community police officer,
Right.
that you,
and they
Yeah.
knock off some rent. They give you a pretty good discount.
Okay.
But in return, you have to take all the complaint calls and so forth and whatever. So I start getting notifications that he is hitting ducks and geese with sticks and stones. And then it turned into cats. And then he wouldn't mind. Well, let me tell you something.
And then
Hey.
he what? And then he wasn't yours? What'd you say?
No, he wouldn't mind. He wouldn't
Oh,
listen.
he wouldn't mind. Oh, okay.
He wasn't obedient.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
he was disobedient. And let me
Gotcha.
tell you something, from Indiana statute, if you don't listen to your parents, man, they call us, you're in some deep stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
So basically, I called my local department in the area, which a lot of them knew me. And I said, look, we need to take this kid to the hospital. And I'm not going to name the hospital, but it's for emergency people with issues like he has. And his mother is hysterical. And I was like, I know this child's not going to go. And I don't want people seeing me take this child and put him over my shoulders and
Yeah.
forcefully
How old
put
is he?
him.
Or
He
how old
was
is
8 or 9,
he? Okay.
and forcefully put him in the back of my police car.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want everybody to see that.
Okay.
And he was like, what do you want me to do? Put him in handcuffs? I'm like, you're in uniform. You can do what you want to do. After 45 minutes of talking, he wouldn't budge. So I snatched him. Lo and behold, he came off that couch. Feet and everything off the ground. I'm like, you're going to walk down these steps and get in his car right now. Are we clear? Boy, he took off. He got in the cop car. I was surprised. So we get to the hospital and everything. And I was like, so-and-so, I'm not going to mention her name. I was like, this is going to be really hard for you to listen to. Okay. But I want you to hear, courtesy officer. Thank you, Deacon. Courtesy officer. And I said, this is going to be really hard for you to listen, but you need to know because it is going to come to pass. So we get in front of the intake officer. I'm like, I'm sorry, but we are way beyond this point, and we need to talk to the doctor or the PRN. So she went with no questions and got who I asked for. And I said, look, I want to wrap this up real simple. And I'm like, you know anything about serial killers? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, okay, now let me ask you this. You know how they started out? And her mom's just going hysterical. They start out young, beating animals, killing animals, being mean to animals, cruelty, all that stuff. And I named some other stuff that he's done. And she's just like flipping out. And, and I'm taking this by the ages, of his growing up and his rough childhood and giving her all the backstory. And I looked at her mother and I was like, before he's 16 years old, he will end up killing people. I see it in his eyes. And I thought she passed out. I really did. That's how bad it was.
Oh.
And that was a
but
hard
Grizzly,
conversation. Yes.
I just needed to say thank you so very much for inviting me on the show, but I really have to go.
Yeah.
I thank you all for, it's been an honor to speak
Nice
with
to
you
talk
all
to you.
and to meet you and to get to interact. And I hope to see you again shortly. And thank you so very
Thank
much.
you, Penny.
Bye.
Penny, nice
Bye.
meeting you.
So make a long story short, the doctor looked at me and he goes, how do you know so much about this information? And I stood up and I pulled my wallet out and I showed him my credentials.
Good.
He said, that's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be here for a minimum 2 weeks, guaranteed. We're going to strip him down. He's not going to have any personal possessions or anything. And we're going to see what we can do. And unfortunately, we made 4 or 5 attempts with that hospital. And it was so bad that they had to leave and go back to Florida. And I told her, you better stay and get focused and get him help. If not, he's going to be behind bars. It's coming. It will come to pass. Jim, he had all the symptoms. He had all the red warning signs, the flags.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's wrong with society today, is that we don't pay attention.
Yeah.
We're not involved with our family. If you see something that's not right, say something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, a mother
And Jim-
will protect her child at whatever cost. And
Hey,
that's just an instinct.
you tell me. I've been there. I've done it. My child won't do that. Hold on.
My child will not act like that.
Wow.
But you know what's funny?
That was his real voice, by the way.
Every time I went to court, I never had to testify. Only thing I had to
Nobody
do
wanted
was
to hear that.
Only thing I had to do is play my chess cam.
Yeah.
Their parents would be like, "What in the hell? We didn't know he acted like that to you." I was like, "The reason why is you're not around."
Yeah.
And they would get defensive. I'm just like, I'm just being honest and truthful with you.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of family connection is not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you got people that are lonely, that cannot find a partner in life, that do get jealous, do get angry and frustrated, do get turned down and get mad about it. Nobody says any complimentary things anymore. And if you do, Trisha, you look beautiful tonight. Oh, that's sexual harassment. You know, he's flirting with her. So people don't say anything no more. You know, I'm not bald. I
I'm
shave my
sorry,
head.
but I have heard some things. Let me tell you.
Well,
Okay.
I know.
People have no problem with saying.
He's hair challenged.
Yeah. So that's my point. And unfortunately, here in Louisville, 10, 12 years ago, we had lots of incidents at bars where females got drugged with their drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened in large cities across the country. And Jim, the famous one that guys would do to other guys that wanted to pick up their chicks, is the Visine trick. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
So,
What, they would drug the guy so that
You would put Visine in the alcoholic drink, give him the runs, and he'd spend the day in the bathroom.
Oh my God.
Some guys.
And it works pretty quick too. I assure you that.
Two friends of mine got roofied at a
Mhm.
bar by the bartender. They put something in their drinks, and after they drank it, they both felt funny. They made it to their car, locked the doors, and passed out in the back seat because they knew something was going to go down.
Oh wow! Oh my God, that actually was smart.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the point that Jim's trying to tell you. Me personally, Sport Cat,
bring your own bottle.
If somebody is buying me a drink and brings it to me, I will not drink it.
That is what happened to me.
Sorry.
That's what happened to me. Okay.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 29. Yeah, I was 29.
Wow. And you didn't know that. No, I'm not picking on you, but it's like most people know. Like my mother, I grew up.
What were you going to ask me?
Well, no, they want to know. It's like a young woman wouldn't have that experience to know not to take.
Wait, hold on a second. Let me think. Was I 29? Yeah, I was 29.
I have to say, I didn't think you were 25.
So you know what? This is why I care, is because I mean, I've had to learn some things, and I'm very thankful that I'm able to see I'm thankful that he wasn't a type of guy that killed me. I'm thankful that's all that happened. And
you're thankful that you're not a statistic in the FBI.
I mean, he could have driven me
out on a milk carton.
He could have driven me out into I was in Sausalito, California. So he could have driven me out into the ocean and threw my body overboard. I mean, I have glimpses of moments of like being, I mean, I can, whatever. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I want other people to know, I think, the whole day my intuition was telling me to not go. Mm-hmm. And I was in that day, I was like practicing wanting to understand, like to know what my intuition was, like that day. I remember that. I'm like, okay, so like earlier in the day, I was kind of like, I don't want to go. I mean, I wasn't interested in the guy. And so I'm like, I'm not going to go. And then he called me to check on, to confirm. And so I was like, oh, okay. That means that it's okay to go. That was like the first sign.
Mhm.
And then I ran out of gas on the way there. And so I was like, okay, that's my sign to not go. And then so I called my dad to ask him to help me, to come help me with my my gas issue. And so he said to me, well, you better hurry up so you're not late. So I took that as a sign to go. So there were these different signs, these different like intuitive nods that I was that I wasn't listening to.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it just is what happens. I mean, and then here's another thing is that I had a date the next day, and I went and played racquetball, and I was really tired. And when we finished up the game, and then I drove off, he called me and he said, "Are you okay? Because something seems off." And I just met the guy. He had been a doctor. He stopped practicing. He got into computer stuff. And I told him what happened. He's like, "You need to go to the police." It didn't even occur to me because I felt like, I don't know, it did not even occur to me at that time to go to the police. So we drove up to Sausalito, and that's where it started.
Okay, so you were 29 years old and you didn't call the police that this happened. And yet when you talked about these young women in the dorm or where they're staying, she's 24, she has no experience.
That's
no
why
real life
I'm saying
experience.
to you that people should
I understand that.
That is what I'm talking about.
I
Okay,
understand that,
I
but
mean, I'm not interested in arguing with you.
I'm not arguing. I'm not trying. I'm just.
All right. So I'm going to interject here for a second. So my point about drinks is exactly what Trish is saying. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I used to go to bars, if I didn't personally watch that bartender make that drink, he or she turned their back on me to make that drink, I wouldn't buy it. They used to get so mad at me.
Really?
I want to see you make that drink in front of me.
That's why everything's in front of you, so you see the drink.
That is correct.
Made.
Yeah, it was the last he gave me. Like, I drank, we had drinks that night. But I didn't drink. I didn't feel like, I felt like, I would say, pretty buzzed.
Mm-hmm. And
then he said, "Do you want another drink?" And I hadn't even finished the other drink. And so I was like, okay. So then I drank some, and there was hardly anyone there in the whole place. And we got my jacket out of the closet or whatever, wherever it was. And as we were walking out, it was like somebody turned off the TV on me. Like, we were walking out, and then all of a sudden I started going black. And I have a moment of him catching me before I fell on the ground. So I have like,
were you at his house?
No, we were in Sausalito. We were at the yacht club watching boats decorated going by. And it was, we met other people. I ended up calling this girl who I met there and asking her some stuff. And
it sounds like you were set up.
We were
definitely. It was a setup.
We went to.
No, I mean, there was more than one person. Like the bartenders. That's how.
No, it was just him. It was just him.
You were at the yacht club, though, right? You were having drinks.
It was
from the
just
bar?
him. It was just him.
So Pamela says, "Hey, I wanted to apologize right now. What I said, I didn't mean to say. I wrote it wrong.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say that he would get a fair trial. I worded it wrong, and I meant to say
he would not.
He would not. So she said I wrote it so fast.
Okay.
And she also says people have to research everything these days, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That is the truth. Now, Deacon, I'm sorry, Trisha, that happened to you.
Thanks for saying that.
That had to be surreal and traumatic experience.
Yeah, I mean, I had let me tell you, I had an experience when I left the docks. I was right there at the docks, and right in the same parking lot was a portable police station. There were portables, and there was a police station right there.
That's anything saved your life.
And then I went to leave. It was like 3 a.m. or something. I'm not sure. And I was hungry. I had not eaten the whole time. Like I was really hungry and thirsty. And something woke me up. Like I felt like I was like this. I woke up all of a sudden, and then I was able to leave. I went to like a 7-Eleven or a liquor, like a convenience store, and I go in. And there are 2 guys talking outside, like this older man, this tall, skinnier older man, and then a guy that was shorter than him, and he was like probably in his, I'm gonna say like his mid-30s or something like that, somewhere in there. And I got like some sort of like, I don't know, a banana muffin and I don't know, some water. And I go back to my truck and I'm sitting there and I cannot eat it. For something, I don't know why I did this. I got out of my truck and I went over to the guy, and I said, "Do you want my muffin? I can't eat it. I'm not hungry." And he said, "Sure." And he leaves. And I say to this other guy, which I've never done this, I don't know what made me do this, but I said, "Will you sit here and talk to me? I had a weird experience." So he's like, "Sure." He's like, "Why don't we go back into the store and we'll see if we can you can use the bathroom, get a banana and a coffee." Like it was, I feel like I had like a guardian angel or something like appearing for me, like right at this moment in my life. And so we went, he said, "Get in your truck and then I'll just sit here, we can talk for what, I don't know." I just was in a daze. Like, I'm like, what just happened? And he just sat there cheerfully, like rambling, talking away, whatever. I was just, and then after a little while, he said, "Do you feel better?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do feel better." And he said, "Do you want me to follow you while you're driving for a little bit to make sure you're okay, that you're driving okay?" And I said, "Sure." So I, on the way towards the freeway, going back towards San Jose, before getting on the freeway, I pull over, he pulls over, he said, "You look great." And he said, I said, "Thank you." And then I went home and went to bed. And so blah, blah, blah. So I'm just saying, like, I really have a passion for this. I mean, I really didn't get very much support when I got home and whatever. So I'm just saying, like, I want to be, I can only learn from what happened and like want to teach others, to. By the way, really quick, there is this invention out there now that it looks like a hairband, and the girl can put it over her drink, and it is like your straw goes in the middle of it, and your drink is covered, so no one can drug you while you're at the bar.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was on Shark Tank.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Sport Cat, Trisha, Jim, Elise, the star. She had to cut it short. She tried to come back in. Ladies and gentlemen, wonderful conversations, some personal experiences that we shared. It's been real nice. I think we ought to do this one more time. What do y'all think? Yes, we are live. This is a live show. Grizzly does not pre-record anything. So what we talk about, that's all right. You can go back and rewatch it. But I said let's do it again next Monday at the same time. What do you think? Jim, you up to it?
Sure.
What are we going to talk about?
Trish? Same thing. See if there's any changes and maybe something along with it. And we can discuss that off air.
Maybe, we'll see.
But ladies and gentlemen, this is Grizzly. If you ever want to be on my show, all you have to do is email me at grizzlytheparanormal@gmail.com. Once again, grizzlytheparanormal@gmail.com. From coast to coast and around the world, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the night where we must say goodbye. Until next Monday at 8 o'clock. we will have another show. And we enjoyed your interaction with us and a great panel that we had tonight. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being on the show, which is live. So somebody says shadow beams. Let's talk about shadow beams.
Yes, let's talk about something else next time.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but people need to understand things in life, and people are so blind. But unfortunately, thank you, Deacon. She said, thanks, everyone. Great show. So did Scarborough Sasquatch Station. But thank you, everybody. Good night. Until next time. Until then.
Good night.
Night.